Bang. Bolt Action News. Saturday
Uh,
Night Bang.
just like in
Bang,
high
bang.
school.
Here it is.
Here it is, the Saturday Night Bang. You've been waiting for it all week, just like in high school.
Fun. Let's wait for a few minutes for a couple of people to jump in here.
Sure.
There it went finally, I think. There goes a notification. So should be whoop. Whoa.
Cameras of mass destruction. Hey, Lion One.
Hello. All right, let me get my other screen together so that I can babysit the chat for the most here. Hello, Snap. Line 1, Maddie.
Incognito.
You, Wally. I know we can both do that, except
Incognito.
I can do that a little bit easier. Watch. You got to get this. Got to get that incognito.
Dude, you're like the Invisible Man. You're like Hollow Man.
There, I think we might run it like this right here. If I can keep it, I might be able to keep it together. Yep, there we go.
You're like Randall Flagg.
You like that?
That's pretty awesome. It'd be even better if you could do that in real life.
I know, right? It would be.
Hey, thanks for stopping in. Accountability for All.
Hey, Accountability for All.
Hey, J. Carlos. Gunny Grunt. James Richards. Maddie, I got you.
I don't see any comments, guys, so don't get mad at me if I'm not hollering out your name, because I don't see anything here except for these two fellas.
It would take me forever to pull up all of the things and stuff in here. 10th Man will probably release the link in just a few minutes. Yes, Captain Awesome, or do you want me to put it out now?
You can go ahead and put it out now. I mean, just as long as everybody knows we got a topic and we're going to stick to it.
Yep. We haven't even gotten to that topic yet. We should probably get to that at this point now. We got about 20 people here. There is the link to come on in. And yes, Gunny Grunt, stealth.
We're talking about Child Protective Services, Department of Children's Families today.
And
CPS.
Yep. We're going to go off of some of these statistics right here that we're going to be running off of and stuff like that. That will give us a good talking points here tonight for some of the things that are going to be going on.
Hey, 10th Man.
Hey, Maddie.
Sup, boys? Hey, you know what's hilarious, buddy?
Hey, man.
I was somebody, poor dirt farmer or 5-speed. Sometimes I get the two confused, as you may not understand. They said, you really got to go over and check out Bolt Action News Group. Over there, they're really cool and blah, 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 blah. So I just went and found it and subbed it. And then it just came online. And I'm like, hold on a second.
Bang!
Bang! Bang!
See, we're like Google. We're tracking you and stuff.
Dude, I loved what you said last night in that other live stream when you were talking about cops and going back to get, what'd you say? I'm a venereal disease.
Oh, yeah. You talking to me, right?
Yeah. What is it?
Yeah, I'm an STD. I keep coming back.
Okay, we've got this comment from Doug here, too.
Live through what?
Florida. DCF, the topic for tonight.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Well, not excellent, but, it's good that we have people in the chat that have some experience, so they know the
he lived in Florida.
Tribulations.
Through that. Yeah, okay. Huh.
All right. Well, Eyes on the State's going to start off the discussion, and he's been focused a lot on CPS here in Florida, and he's got a little bit more insight personally than I do. I don't know about rights or a 10th man there. I don't even know. 10th man, are you even in Florida?
No, buddy, I'm something different.
He's
Okay,
in Canada.
Oh,
He's
okay.
on a
It
really
doesn't
tiny little sliver of Nova Scotia.
Yeah,
Nope.
because you know what?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Oh no, you're not. Something
Anyway,
like that.
let's not concentrate on me. We're going to stick to the topic.
Stick to the topic. All right. So, every country, doesn't matter where it is, they've all got, that child stealing service there for the,
and it's weaponized, as Doug is stating here.
Yeah, I see that.
And that's what they do with them. A lot of them now at this point is they are used as weapon in the divorce industries. The divorce industries, if one party wants to get divorced from the other party, then all of the things that are put in place to help people that are extremely in need of that help because of the situation that they're in, be it male or female, the other party will use that as a weapon and cry wolf, basically, is what is done. And the amount of due process and the amount of diligence done by the employees that work in these places is very limited. It's very, very, very limited. When you go in front of one of these courtrooms, they're not the real courtrooms that everybody's used to. They're quasi courtrooms. And I know Captain Awesome knows about quasi courtrooms, and he can explain the differences probably between a quasi courtroom and an actual courtroom. And the way that they conduct these is in such a way that the quasi courtroom is the most beneficial area that they can conduct these hearings and these trials and these other things in. Do you want to touch a bit on what those are and how they work so that we can get a handle on how the DCF and the Department of Children and Families actually is able to weaponize all of these things and the reasons they can do these?
Absolutely. And what it is again, it's legalese that they have fooled Americans with in regards to marriage. People know the word marriage, but they also know the words holy matrimony. Holy matrimony is a contract between you, your spouse, and your creator, whoever your personal beliefs make that out to be. That's holy matrimony. That's been around since the beginning of time. Back way back in the day, they used to call it pair bonding. Okay, so this is an institute that's actually older than government, any government. Okay, the founding block of society is the family unit. Okay, that's what founded every society, the family unit. So this institution has been around for a long time. Now, in the 1500s, I believe the church got into it, and the church started, sanctifying marriages or whatever, still under the holy matrimony guides. But not long after that, government had gotten involved with it. Here in the United States, back in the 1800s, a marriage license came about because an interracial couple wanted to marry. That's where the marriage license originated from here in America, the marriage of interracial couples. Now, most people don't realize that marriage, the civil marriage contract, which is the one between you, your spouse, and the state, is different than holy matrimony, which is between you, your spouse, and your creator. The civil marriage, which is what most of us have today, and in the state of Florida, they don't recognize common law marriage, so you can only go the civil marriage route, and that is a contract, between you, your spouse, and the state, with the state being the majority partner in that triangle there. Okay. So, and that's where CPS comes from. That's where child court comes from. That's where divorce comes from. The actual name of the contract is a sui generis contract. SUIGENERIS, sui generis contract, and it it's a different than a normal contract because it's ever changing. Okay, and that's why a divorce doesn't actually cancel the contract of marriage between you and your spouse. It just modifies it. And the
Yes.
court is the mediator of that modification. And that's why the court could say, well, you get the couch and you get the dildos and, you get this and the kids and this and that. Another thing is the legal doctrine of parente, and that means father of the country. And that as well has been with us for a long time, even before America. And basically, what that was the duty of the king to take care of the enfeebled and the abandoned. Uh, and that has also passed here to us in America. And I've got court cases, and I'll quote it, and it's not going to be word for word, but basically, the quote is that the only reason that we receive the child after childbirth is not because that we're the natural parents, but because the state thinks that we're in the best position to take care of that child at that moment. Okay, that's why we leave the hospital with the child, because in the state's eyes, legally, the child is the state's property. Okay, that's what parente means. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why at any time, you can have an allegation against you, and all of a sudden, boom, the state shows up. We're taking the kid, and you got to fight like mad to get it back, and you got to go to the state, and you got to prove all this stuff.
And that's if you're playing that system fair at that point, and they play that system fair to get your kid back. You may not.
Right, and that's an absolute fact. I mean, in some cases, there was a story about the two parents, loving parents, but they smoked marijuana, whatever state they were in. I'm not sure, but it's illegal there. And they went and they took the child, I believe the daughter, like 2 years old or something, and put it in a foster home. And the foster parent ended up killing the child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, that's you take it from a loving parent who maybe smoked some marijuana but wasn't hurting anybody, and then you placed it with some psychopath that ended up killing him. And I've said it before, and I'd say it again, is that there is no way that you could do that to my child, because I would literally kill every single person that had anything to do with that child being removed, from the person that came and took it, to the judge that signed the warrant, to all that, everybody in between, the foster parent included. You'd all be wiped out. You know what I mean? People, they're just pushing people to a limit, and they haven't met, the right one yet. Like the guy with the killdozer, he was the right one. They pushed his buttons too much, and they got
Granby, Colorado. Look it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now we know that. Now, how they can function on most of this too is because most of this quote judge's signature that you're discussing about this, that gives them the authority to take these children, isn't done by a circuit judge or an elected judge or anything like that. Normally, it's done by a lawyer that is put into that position by somebody inside of the system. He's appointed there. He doesn't have to answer to anybody. There's no real oversight upon the top of these people. So these aren't judges most of the time that are signing these orders. They're hearing examiners, or hearing officers is what they like to call them. And that's what I was saying about that quasi-court system, that they can do this because there's not as much due process as there should be to protect the rights of the parents and the rights of the child in these situations, to make sure that the best thing happens for everybody involved. It's more based on a money schematic is what it is, because when they take your child and they give your child to that foster parent that is going to do harm to that child, that whole entire time that foster parent is doing that, they're getting a check from the system.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
I couldn't find this on. I could not find this on YouTube.
You could not. I did.
No, are you live?
Yeah, we are.
there's people in chat.
Yeah, this is all going. Okay, so what it is that foster parent, what they do is they get a paycheck. The quasi judge gets a paycheck. The CPS person gets a paycheck. And everybody gets all these paychecks, but none of these things are accountable. There's stories every single day of these child protective services people getting pulled over for DWIs, falsifying reports, not filling reports out, not doing the things that they're supposed to do to make sure that the child is in the best interests at that point. I mean, most of these people have very, very limited schooling in the first place when they go into these positions to be able to have control in it's utter control over your life. They've instituted these people into the schools that will question children without another adult present or without a parent or legal advisor present, and they will use that information that could be coerced, it could be planted, it could have anything done with it, and there's no accountability over the top of any of these people for that.
No, and again, you brought up the quasi courts, and I'll tell you why that is. In the Constitution, the courts are under Article 3, the judicial branch, but some courts are what they call Article 1 courts, administrative courts under the executive branch. And that's where you're going to find CPS, where you're going to find traffic courts for like red light camera tickets.
Yep.
I mean, one of my red light camera tickets, it was in a strip mall in like a back room of it was just the most shadiest setup you ever seen. The only thing to legitimize it was the fact that there were a couple of cops in there to testify against everybody. But damn, they're the shadiest thing I've ever. And they charged you court costs. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. There was no freaking court here. You know what I mean? You had like a plastic 6-foot table set up with a damn, laptop and a projector to show the violations and, 15 chairs in the room. There's no damn court here. You know what I mean? And it's still like $300 court costs. So yeah, they're robbing us left and right. And again, it's because of not understanding, where the power comes from and how things are done. And again, it all boils down to really either knowing the law or not knowing the law.
It does.
Follows history, dude. The people that know the law are always going to screw the people that don't know the law.
Yep.
Be it your landlord, be it CPS, be it the tax guy, be it your boss. I mean, that's just the way it is. Law is probably, I'd say, on par with math and English as a subject that needs to be studied all throughout your school life. Because nothing,
throughout your whole life.
Yeah, nothing affects us more than law. I mean, nothing, absolutely nothing. The only thing that I could think would come close
science
would be currency and your brain, how the brain operates. Those are the only things that would compare as importance to being able to live our lives not in a fog of stupidity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But that's what, like Lion One had said here. They want that fog of stupidity. All the nonprofit mental health agencies that get tax dollars want those foster children to treat them with lots of medication. That's a huge thing that they do too. Everybody gets prescribed something as soon as they're in the system. There's always something wrong with them. Let's drug them up. Let's get them addicted to these prescription drugs that are just extremely bad in some cases, that do really bad things, all in all.
Yeah, but don't forget, if you sell 100 pills, you get that trip to Cancun.
Yes, you do too. And if you sell 1,000 pills, whoo, you're going on a 2-week cruise, and you got a new company car that you're driving around in now.
I'm telling you. I mean, there's all kinds of.
When that's exposed, what happens to GlaxoSmithKline and Pfizer and Merck? They have to pay a pittance of penalty versus what they made in profit.
Yeah, literally a pittance.
Yes, literally. I mean, the accountability that is held to them, they like to go under that same immunity. You know, they have that qualified immunity because they're just doing their job. When they're gross misconduct in their job, shouldn't excuse, you know, there should be no excuse from that. But you can't hold any of these people liable. And I mean, a lot of the things that are happening to a lot of the people now, if you go and ask, probably 50% of the people that are dealing with this right now are dealing with it under fraudulent circumstances. Like, let's just look here at the statistics really quick on this, and let me bring this one up. Last year, well, this is up to last updated 4/13/2020, and it says the statistics at a glance, January 2020 for Florida. They had 26,235 hotline reports assisted. Out of those reports that they had, 16,510 of them were actually found for investigation purposes and gone to be investigated on
So
those.
about 10,000
were just phone calls that were people either trying to use the system,
retaliate, and
yeah, retaliation. And these officers that deal with this are supposed to be trained in that, and they're supposed to know the differences between when somebody's calling for that retaliation and when it's just actually somebody that could actually need that care and actually need that help. And
now, you know how we say cops solicit a trespass? Can a CPS or a DCF person like ask, you know, hey,
if I may.
is everything okay? Can they just jump in there without, like, I know doctors and
Yes.
nurses have like
Yes.
a duty. Okay.
Yes.
If I'm
So
They have-
now, don't they also have a really big incentive, like $8,000 per
Huge.
kid or something like that?
Huge.
What's the
There's
number? Tell me about that.
I don't know the number. I would have to pull the number out, and in the records that we've been requesting so far, that isn't something that I've pulled out yet. But I can pull those numbers out because I've been pulling other sides of this system's numbers and finding huge discrepancies in their numbers about things that they're doing, and I'm feeding into the rest of the thing. I mean, when Captain Awesome and I, and even you've gone,
I
when
can't hear
we've
you
gone
guys
to
yet.
these, hello,
Hey, Maddie.
when we've
Hey,
gone
I
to
couldn't
these,
hear you.
can you now?
I can't hear the show. I didn't know that I was in the show. I was just coming to hear it. on
You're there,
stereo.
girl.
All right, well, here, I'll pull you down then
How
so
you
you
guys
can
doing?
hear it. Okay,
Good.
good. Do you want to stay in or
It's
do you
good
want
to
to
see
go
you
down?
guys. I really love what you guys are doing. I've been watching your videos. I've been talking to rights, and I'm legitimately now a paralegal. I can write a little bit in legal jargon and stuff too. So if you guys
Congrats,
need me,
Maddie.
thank you. If you need me, I'm
Yeah,
at your
congrats.
service.
Yes,
For
congrats.
free. I will never charge. I don't give legal advice, but I'll write a paper or two for you if you ever need me. I'm yours.
Thank you.
Thank
So-
you.
So I support everything that you guys are doing. I really admire the way you guys kicked it off. You're taking it to the Joel Chandler level, and you guys that have been in it for a while know who that is, especially you Florida guys. You know.
Oh yeah, love Joel's stuff.
And that's what sparked people like Jeff Gray. So I really admire what you guys are doing. I really completely respect it, and I support it 100%.
Hey,
Thank
Solo Yaker. Solo Yaker. Did you get that text? Well, I sent it to John Felix. Did he show you? You had seen that, right?
Okay, so back where we were on that, it seems to be that to ask questions and to do the things that you were asking about, right, Crispy? It seems to be that they have unrestricted ability to do that at any place. So
If
they'll
I
go,
may, just
Yes.
momentarily here. They instituted a new tracking system in California where it puts all the data. This was a requirement after a whole lot of court cases. where now everything that happens, like if your kid shows up at a hospital room with a broken arm, that's put in. So it's like Skynet for kids, right? Where it tracks everything that happens. It's called the I have it open here, Child Welfare Digital Services.
And that's everywhere. That's everywhere too.
The problem with it is that it can show false positives and cause people a terrible nightmare when nothing was actually going on. You know what I mean? So no, this is a whole new thing. Like it's artificial intelligence. It's not just it's not the way that we've done it up until now. This is an artificial intelligence mainframe that tracks this shit. It's very scary. It's brand new.
That's why I told my kids when they're out there playing to be careful, because if they break their leg, I'm going to tell them to walk it off. I'm not taking them.
Walk it off. Wow.
You got another one.
But seriously, that's what it's coming down to now. Legitimate parents, taking their kids into the emergency room because Johnny was riding his bike, hit a bump, fell off, and did a chin slide on the pavement. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, you got to be beating your child.
Yep, where we would go.
Yeah, we're in such a helicopter parent mode, and it's such a thing that they call it free range parenting now, like a kid's a freaking chicken, because you let them go 2 houses over to the local park, and you're not there like sniffing his drawers right behind them. You know what I mean? You actually give your kid a little bit of space. I mean, when we were growing up, hell, we rode halfway across the town on our bicycles at 10, 11 years old. And, now you're down the block and the neighbors are calling the cops on you. They let their children out to play. Can you imagine it?
When you have kids around my age, it's even good to let them have unattended play so their imagination and creativity grows. You're not supervising, they're not under that scrutiny,
Right.
And not to mention, I think that there's a part of the police that plays a part in this, and it denigrates their job and their duties, because they come out and they've got a phone call and now they're just trying to make both sides happy, whether they quote the law or not. They don't care. They just want to get that call over with and get on to the next call, and it becomes just a production service where 2/3 of the world's population in the prisons are in our country.
Yeah, and it's sad that they waste all the resources like we usually see government doing on these bullshit calls that, there's nothing wrong there. Its kid was just growing up is what happened. And they don't catch the atrocities that are actually happening, which they could have if they had saved their resources for that.
Exactly.
The resources are stretched very, 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 very thin by the 10,000 plus probably calls. That's into the hotline that they're getting. So imagine the calls that are coming into the departments and the fire departments and the medical hospitals and the medical staff and all those other things that they're also fielding too on top of it. So it's huge amounts of money that they're using on this, and they're not using the resources correctly.
If by not using the resources correctly, you mean siphon it off for that new Benz.
Yeah. Or the new Jaguar, or the trip to Cancun, or, it's huge amounts of state money. And then it's huge amounts of federal money that is reimbursed to them for every case they handle, for every child that they take out for a certain amount of time. Then there's more money for every child that they place out of the home. Then there's every one of these counselors and everything that goes along with it that they recommend to you. There's huge amounts of money spent into that also.
Yeah, Lion One says the medical staff and ERs treat parents with suspicion and are eager to make reports for cover your ass purposes, and they're trained to do that.
Yes, they are.
And as far as being eager, I don't know, but they do train them to cover their ass and be like, if you see something, you have the slightest bit, go ahead and report it. Let DCF and CPS handle it. And DCF will handle it to a zealous degree.
Mm-hmm. A very zealous degree. And they won't let you in their buildings, really. They won't let you question them. They won't answer questions. They won't do anything at all. They'll just do whatever it is that they want to do. And see,
we'll shine a light on those cockroaches if that ever happens. Solo.
Mm-hmm. They'll do it sneakily.
Listen, they got the incentive to do it because, as you know, government doesn't get smaller. Okay, so what happens is if these guys are doing a good job over time, you should see abuse cases down. Because you've taken the kids from all the abusers, and it's not like a abuser is born every day and then grows to adulthood and starts abusing that same day. It takes time. So. But what we're seeing happening is every year, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can assure you from the last 20 years that it is a lot higher today than it was 20 years ago, as far as the so-called abusive families. So what happens is work's slowing down because you're actually taking care of the problem. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute.
What's going on out there?
I'm going to be out of a job here soon. So now I have to, get more requirements for people to be so-called unfit so I can take more children so I can continue my cushy job and my federal retirement program and stuff like that. The same thing goes with the police and the sentencing guidelines that they have. You're going to find somebody that has grown weed gets more time in prison than some guy that beats and rapes somebody. And the reason why that is because what they want to do is they want to fill these prisons with nonviolent offenders. That way there's no place to put the violent offenders. So the violent offenders keep getting kicked back out on the street. They of course keep committing crime, and they can sit there and continually ask for more more money, more policing. But if you look at it, crime's been on a steady drop since the 70s, and police has only grown since the 70s. So, I mean,
into a police state.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So, I mean, if we're hiring somebody to do the job and 30 years goes by and the job still isn't done, throwing more money at it's obviously not going to get the job done. I mean, look at the drug war. I mean, drugs are cheaper and more plentiful than when you started the drug war, my friend.
And it empowers all the drug cartels that cause a lot of the problems on our border and in our cities. I mean,
yep.
Stop Nixon's antiquated mentality and think progressively, where you shouldn't care what somebody does to their body. And if you do, think about, all the shootings and killings that are done to people's bodies in bad drug deals.
Right, absolutely. The victimless crime thing is something that definitely we need as a society to look at and to see what we can do about it, because we're just jailing ourselves. I mean, literally, we're paying taxes to have somebody harass us, detain us, throw us in jail. I mean, we might as well just skip the tax guy and hire a full-time policeman to follow us around and kick us in the ass, because that's pretty much exactly what we're doing. We're paying the government to spy on us. We're paying the government to sit there on the side of the road and harass us when we do something wrong.
We're paying them to screw around and not do their job too.
Mm-hmm.
And they all cover each other. Hey, News Now California.
Yeah, hey, News Now California.
Hey, NNC.
I got to call you back, my dude.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen his latest video, it was crazy. That female deputy walked up and he's like, please keep your distance. And that's what triggered her to walk up on him. Like, reckless disregard.
Oh, so she was kind of like
ego-driven.
Yeah, she was kind of excited when he was like, stay away. She's like, ooh, you're mine.
You never tell me what to do. I'm going to give you COVID right now.
Exactly.
No.
I got a pair of handcuffs I've been dying to use on a boy like you.
Pink.
That's kind of how it went down, basically. You guys saw it then.
I don't know if you guys saw in the chat. I was kind of asking a question. When was DCF and CPS stuff like that created?
Yeah, Gunny Grunt was saying it used to be HRS before.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's all I ever heard about.
Health and Rehabilitative Services.
Right.
At least that was down here in Florida. And when I was a kid, that's what it was called too. Department of Health and Rehabilitative Services, I believe.
Well,
but I do.
Ever heard of when I was a kid. Maybe every once in a while you might hear about a kid threatening to call them or something like that, but you didn't really see all this. I don't know. Maybe it was just called something different. Maybe we just didn't deal with them in our house.
Well, and again, it started slow like it always does, because you can't just come in, gang force and remove people's rights. It's got to be done slowly and over time. But I don't know the exact date, but if I had to narrow it down, I would say probably right around the Roosevelt administration, those years over there, because if you remember back to the early 1900s, the corporations were using the kids in coal mines and steel mills and stuff like that. So you hear about them being abused back then when they were using them for child labor. But, all of a sudden it's all about the children and that's their spiel now, because obviously they found another way to make money off them, which is the black market, either through selling them for sex or selling them for organ harvesting or, whatever other sick thing that they can think of, it's been a scam, and it's always going to be a scam. I mean, I'm sure there's legitimate children out there that need help, but like most things with government, they screw it up, and you're much better else with a private company handling something of that nature. But then again, even then, the problem that we're having is that men are men, and we have greed, and we have all these human desires and traits that have been with us since the beginning of time, and there's no erasing those. So when you put people in power like we do, because it's always been told it's in our best interest, one of the things that strikes me so illogical is when someone says that we are too stupid, to govern ourselves. But if we get 10 of us together, we can govern millions. That really says a lot about, humans thinking about society and leaders, rulers, whatever you want to call them. We've always been told we need this structure. If we don't have this structure, the world will descend into chaos, and perhaps it will. And who knows? Nobody knows, because we haven't not had a society for 2,000 years. So I mean, it sounds good, but
I've seen a lot of talk that's the final goal of what these things are doing, is when they disrupt families so much like that, the societal structure breaks down, is what happens.
But they're trying to break it down into not something like where we're all individuals and we can govern ourselves and enter into contracts for bigger for bigger goals like defense or something like that. They're trying to break it down into them, us, and no family unit, sort of like China. You get to have one kid maybe if you're lucky.
Correct.
I mean, they're going to break it all down to that, because
but they have to destroy the structure that's in place first in order to try to put that new structure into place, because nobody's going to accept that structure at this point. That's why they're doing the things that they're doing, because if they can destroy the family units, then the family unit wouldn't have been there to give them that knowledge in the first place to know that, hey, what they're doing isn't right. They shouldn't be all loading us into this car and driving us over here and working us for 15, 16, 18 hours a day or whatever it is that they're going to do.
But we're already there. We're already there. If you look around today, we are already there. The family unit's been broken down. Okay.
Yep,
you got 10-year-old kids slapping their mom and saying, fuck you to dad. All right. The family unit is way broken down. Nowadays, parents don't raise children. The internet and the TV raises the kids. Okay. And what the kids see on TV is that they're smart enough at 10 years old to decide whatever they need to decide. And then you look around again and you see COVID and you see people running to give away their rights just to get back to work at McDonald's for a couple of bucks because we're so in debt and we're so addicted to, it's not even needs, it's wants, I used to do a thing where I'd ask a person what it is they had in their mind that they were buying next. Because at any moment in time, you can think of something that you want to buy, or you need to buy. We've become a nation of consumers. And each one of our heads, we know that there's something either we need or we want to buy. And that's how we live our lives now. We live our lives chasing this fiat currency. And it's exactly how they wanted it. Everything today is exactly the way it should be according to their standards. None of this is a mystery or unexplained or, when people are sitting around going, well, why did the government do that? Well, the government did it because it knows exactly why it did it.
Because it's in the script. Everything's going according to plan.
Yes.
Right. And people are always like, well, that's against the Constitution. I've never heard anybody say one time, maybe it's not against the Constitution. Maybe my understanding of the Constitution is wrong. No one's ever said that. It's always the government's going against the Constitution. Well, maybe the government isn't going against the Constitution. Maybe the government lied to us about what the Constitution was and how it operates. How this is not seeped into anybody's mind, I don't understand. You know what I mean? How do we not question the very foundations of our society? We all know, every one of us knows, even the trolls know.
That
deep
brings
in their heart.
13th Amendment to me, just like that whole statement you just made. Like, talked about slavery back in the Constitution, and 13th Amendment makes everybody who's deemed a criminal a slave practically. You're right. It's going exactly how they wanted it to go. Everything's where it's supposed to be right now.
Exactly. And, people say, oh, we're heading towards socialism. And I tell them, I said, what do you know about eminent domain? I said, socialism is baked into the cake here. Socialism
I was just thinking about that.
The Constitution, okay? Because what socialism is the taking of something from one for the betterment of all. And that's exactly what eminent domain is. And that's in the Constitution.
Yeah, I saw Doug 158. He wrote, "Speak for yourself. I have 8 years left on my last house until they come and say we're going to build a new airport here."
Exactly.
And then they have to give you a fair market value.
Right.
Okay, hang on a second. Constitutional Corner came back in. I don't know. Let me see if it wanted to be in the stream.
Hi, guys.
Yep. Hello.
Hey, guys. Real quick, Rogue. This is why I think I'm your biggest fan. Man, I don't think you could have hit the target any more dead center.
Thanks, man.
When I took constitutional law last year, it was a really big wake-up call because a lot of things that I was under the impression of, and I'd even quoted on my videos, turned out that I didn't have the knowledge that I thought I had. And constitutional law was a wake-up call. And I tell anybody, get online, really read this stuff, read the case law behind it. You
can take a constitutional law class on coursera.org. Just spell the word course and then put RA after and then .org and sign up for constitutional law class there.
Do it. Seriously, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I included, I did a Poster 7 free press discussion video on my channel, and I uploaded my copy of Thomas Cooley's General Principles of Constitutional Law from 1898, and anybody can download that and read it themselves. Listen, we don't have to go to college in order to pick up these textbooks and read them.
Right.
Now, there's some understanding issues. And I always recommend that people that want to get into law to take a course or read a book on statutory construction and figure out how they word this stuff, because all it is wordsmith. Okay, that's why it's legalese. It's just the magical words that they switch around, and that's incredibly important. Every word means something in law. It doesn't matter if the word's an A, it means something in law. Find out what it is, and you're
and then
good to
cite
go.
it properly. When you put it on, legalese is basically citing properly and articulately to the point with minimal words and keeping it as simple and stupid as possible. Legalese, put quotations up, cite your sources and move on. That's all. That's really all legal writing is.
Yeah, I saw that in a contract recently, Captain. A tree in this area cannot be cut down. All trees in this area cannot be cut down. That's the difference.
Yep.
Well, listen to this. This is and I never brought this up in any video because this would definitely go over most of the cops' head. But for the trespassing statutes, and you can look at any of them you want, any state you want, it says that if you're on the property of another, okay? Now, public property is not property of another. It is property of many others, okay? It's the property of all of us, okay? Trespassing statutes are for private property, or what people consider private property, which really isn't. Like the gentleman that said he had 8 years left on his mortgage, and then it was all his. After he gets done paying that mortgage for another 8 years, he's going to get that deed back, and he's going to look on that deed, and this is how clairvoyant I am. When he looks at that deed, underneath his name, it's not going to say the word owner, okay? What it's going to say is tenant, okay? And there's a reason for that, because we're still not owners of that property, okay? You will pay rent on that property every year in the form of property tax, okay? And if you miss a couple of years, they will come and they will take their property back, okay? And guess what? It's not fair market value that you're getting for that property, okay? Because again, it's not private property. See, that's another way that that what is in the Constitution is somehow different than what reality is, because under the eminent domain clause, which is the only clause for a taking of property, it said fair market value. The Supreme Court has ruled fair market value is just compensation. Excuse me, it says just compensation in the Constitution, and it's been ruled as fair market value. But we all know that there's been properties taken for $100, $500. There was a gentleman that's going through the Michigan Supreme Court right now where I want to say he owed like $8 in back taxes. The county came and took his home, sold his home, and kept all the money. I mean, every last dime of the money.
The guy that didn't cut his grass, or the one that had the wrong blinds on their house.
Right.
Or how about all those people on the line that own pieces of property in both Mexico and in America that the wall just separated?
Yep.
Right.
Just case in point. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
That's a wonderful
right.
thing, Doug. Doug 158 has that house and 5 acres are exempt, which is awesome. But now you guys understand why we go looking for private property when we go into the zoning departments and the different city halls, and they're always stumped because nobody has actual private property, except unless you're Native American or, you know, somebody blue-blooded.
And I don't even think that's private property either.
But children, CPS, DCF.
We have the illusion.
We got taken a little off topic here.
We do have
You are free to do what I tell you.
Yeah.
Have you guys,
right or not.
have you guys seen the movie The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez by chance?
Yes.
Anybody?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, San
Right.
Joaquin did some revisits at those
know.
actual places. It was pretty
I
awesome.
know. I watched his and that, and yeah, it's a very tragic thing. But the thing is you know, a lot of that's going on. I talk about it a lot, and it's a very distressing thing. I was told there's very strict rules here, so I'm trying to be on my best behavior eyes.
Okay.
No, there's not strict rules. We
Yeah,
just
don't think too much.
Yeah, we just don't like people cutting over other people. We like to get a clear and concise message out. We don't want it
I gotcha.
to turn into a circus affair, and we kind of want to stay on topic. There's obviously we can mesh with the topic with something that's coherent with it and that flows with it, but we don't want to just be a panel of people talking about whatever, and then it gets in the 4
gotcha.
hours and nothing.
I love
nothing
staying on
gets talked
topic.
about.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's almost a waste
Now,
of time.
Those things with Gabriel Hernandez, like you were saying, that's a publicized case.
No, I understand.
Imagine how many haven't been publicized that are just like that are being hidden.
Well, that's where I was leading to, is the fact that there's so much going on that there's no way that it's not actually an orchestrated thing. Like there's no way that it's all incompetence. That's I think what Captain Awesome's saying is that I believe that this is actually much more nefarious than a lot of people want to believe. I talk about it quite a bit because if I've brought this up numerous times, and there's so many cases of it. Canada is prevalent with child trafficking, child predators. It's way, way, way out of hand. And I've brought this up, I believe, to eyes before. But here in the city I live in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada, just above Maine, I didn't know about this until I heard it on the radio. And there's a cop that I think it was 263 children that he had committed sexual assault with between the mid 60s or so up until the 80s. It was approximately 30 years. He ended up doing a few years in jail. Everybody covered it up. He did a few years in jail. Now they're going to get a $26 million lawsuit, which will work out to, probably like 60 grand each once they pay a lawyer. And nobody's being held accountable, right? Any of the people that just swept it under the rug for 30 years, these people were making complaints. That's what the lawsuit is about, is that they refuse to even look into it. Now this is going on all across Canada. So I believe that they're catching the smallest amount, and that the law enforcement agencies are actually complicit in this. That's what
I can actually second that, because I used to go to St. Catherine Street East for Saint Jean Le Baptiste, and you can see it going up and down St. Catherine Street. I mean, it's right there. It's like right out in the open and prevalent, and they do absolutely nothing about it.
Absolutely, because the guys controlling them, nothing done about it, and after a while they see, hey, even if I bust this guy, he's just going to get let off, or something's going to come down from the commissioner saying, leave these guys alone. And it's prevalent not only in CPS, but in other aspects of our lives as well. That there's something amiss there. It would be impossible, I think, to traffic as many children that are trafficked across the borders over to Saudi Arabia and all this other stuff without some kind of connection on the inside. It's ridiculous a thought to me as somebody from the street here going over to Afghanistan to buy a couple kilos of heroin. Anybody that's lived and grown up on the streets know that doesn't happen. Okay, nobody picked up an Afghanistan phone book, dialed the number, and said, "Hey, you got a couple keys of H." It was, it's got to be people that were over there that got contacts over there. But more than that, they have to have ass kicking behind them. Okay, because even if you know somebody over there, let's say you're, Joe Smooth on the street and you're an H dealer and you happen to have a buddy, a pen pal or something over in Afghanistan, he's got the good hookup for you. So you put your $1 million in a briefcase and you fly over there. Well, you know what's going to happen? Joe Smooth is going to get his ass kicked, get his head chopped off, and his money's going to be gone. So you got to show up there. You got to have the juice, the money. You got to have the transportation. And more than anything else, you got to have an ass whoop behind you that they're going to fear. And there's not many people that can say that except for the CIA, people like that. Again, it's impossible to believe that anybody off the street just wandered over in Afghanistan and started becoming a heroin pipeline over here to America, and the government had absolutely no knowledge about it whatsoever.
It's craziness. I mean, you can tell that most of this stuff happens at the top of the food chain of these things. Because look, just like that police chief that was caught not too long ago, he was probably into one of those rings. He probably knew what goes on in those rings. He probably participates in some of those things.
Or maybe he was completely clueless to it until the guy shows up with a flashy jacket and a boxing match, like Frank Lucas.
Maybe.
The other day,
you guys know that story of Frank Lucas?
Yes.
Such an awesome story, I thought.
Yeah.
I shared a story the other day. It was from like 2017, I think, about a victim of sexual abuse gets tied up and abused by the detective in her case.
Yeah, I think I read that one from you, GA, as well. I don't know if I read it from you back then, but
I don't know much about that. Story. But on the CPS,
I shared a trailer recently.
On the CPS topic, my parents were in emergency foster care system, in the emergency foster care system in Connecticut for, I don't know, 20 years. So I had 13 foster brothers and sisters growing up. And I've heard a lot of stories about, what CPS will do, even back then when it was, a lot more mild than it is today. So I can just imagine what they've become.
Holy shit. Yeah, that's crazy, Flying Dutchman. I'm reading also this story that Flying Dutchman is telling us. It's coming out of Ormond Beach from the end of last month. Wow. The month before last March. A couple was fighting, I guess, over a gun or something. Retired firefighter and a female cop, or retired or something, off duty or whatever. But the cop showed up and both the man and woman got shot dead. They're saying that she shot him and then tried to shoot at the cops. And then his body was riddled with police rifle bullets. And she was heard screaming, "I love you," while shielding his body. So what's up with that?
They were showing great restraint.
We'll follow up on that, Flying Dutchman. Thanks for the tip.
What I want to know is, how are they allowed to have all of these military-grade weapons when they're not showing up to anything that requires military-grade response? You got the Insurrection Act. The latest update on that was in 2016. And that's basically overcoming posse comitatus, if you guys are familiar with it. The ability to deploy troops in case of insurrection or lawlessness or whatever. And that was updated in 2016. and they with the 1033 program, they're coming at you. Even to take your kids, they're going to come at you with military grade weapons.
Mm-hmm.
How are they deploying these military grade weapons to come after kids at somebody's house when it's not a military coup, even close to anything that requires a military response?
Because they have to overwhelmingly, with force, make sure that they succeed in their goal.
Most people are civilized. You come in like that, and all you're doing is creating more harm than good. I mean, I could see it in the kids that came in that were ripped out of their house when they came in crying. So
There's
I know
a new bill proposed to the 116th Congress, 2019-2020. It's HR 1714, and I've been talking about this since Rogue and I went to Coral Springs, and that one female cop was decked out like she was about to go into Afghanistan, but she was just giving like a training speech for something. But it's these are police who are supposed to be friendly police officers, not a standing army. So HR 1714 is Stop Militarizing Law Enforcement Act. If you don't know about it, go read up on it, and if you agree with it, tell your representative to back it.
wow, that was awesome. I'm going to definitely check into that. I like it already. I've been saying it for years.
HR 1714.
Got it.
All right, caseworkers at CPS, they are not aware that they're tyrants and government agents. Those are the worst kind because they don't have intellectual aptitude to understand they are corrupt henchmen. It's a fact. That's a fact. They are just drones, just kicking out the work, and I think some of them might know because, like Eyes on the State was explaining, they have an incentive, a monetary incentive.
They all do. Yeah.
Yeah.
It blinds them.
Well, that what happens is they get the same training in school that most of us get, and they, again, believe,
Wow.
what they're being
Killed
told.
the chat with the factoid, huh? Whew. That was a heavy one.
I forgot what I was saying now.
A monetary incentive.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and they have the same schooling.
Yeah. Okay. So right, they
Similar
got the same
to a
schooling.
cop. A cop has a monetary incentive to kill you.
Right.
He shoots you. An investigation happens. He goes on paid leave, on paid vacation, gets on his boat, goes out, does some fishing. He's good to go.
Oh man, you just broke my mind. If I had thought about that, I would definitely be a cop right now. Just go around shooting people, go on vacation. Frack.
But go ahead, Captain.
Yeah, what I was thinking of was, the beliefs that they put into our mind, in school, and what happens again is that we go to this public school, we're looking for education, and all we get is indoctrination, and we get the beliefs that they want us to believe in, and they're called core beliefs, and then other beliefs spring from these, like, okay, a core belief of a lot of Americans is that the government is, for the people, by the people, works for the people kind of deal, and the government would never hurt us. That is a core belief of a lot of Americans. And so from that core belief, you get other beliefs like the police are all good and the police would never hurt us. And, the police are looking out for us. And
Dang,
these,
I don't have audio.
And these guys, they
Am I
just
still
keep.
connected?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can't hear anybody.
Yeah, sometimes Eyes, with one of the newer StreamYards updates, what you do is you put everybody else in the basement, and the person who can't hear, bring them up first with you, and then it usually fixes it.
I knew we let you in for a reason.
Yep. Can you hear?
I can hear you, yeah.
You can't hear Rogue, though, so if you put him in, like, take everybody out, then put Captain Awesome at, like, anywhere at the bottom, but put this guy that can't hear up where Captain Awesome is first, yeah.
Okay, hang on. How does that work?
Is that better?
No whammies. No whammies.
Yay!
All right. All right. So, so yeah, getting back to the topic there, the beliefs that they get instilled with, these CPS workers is that they're doing a good deed, that the only person that knows, is the government. So, it's up to them to ensure the safety of the child. So, they get these beliefs that give them power and give them a sense of, I'm the only one with the knowledge in order to know if the child is being, treated right or not, or if the family has enough food, or again, if smoking weed is a reason to pull a child out of a home. And people are
The
petty a
child or
lot
the
of times.
parents?
Excuse me.
The child or the parents?
The parents. The
Yeah.
parents. Because if the child's already smoking weed, doesn't matter where you
There's a
live,
problem.
there's a weed dealer right around the corner, no matter what house you live in America. So, yeah, that wouldn't help them at all. But they're petty, and they get that sense of I don't know. I don't want to say pride, but it's almost like pride, because they're out there. They feel they're doing this great job, and meanwhile they're wrecking citizens' lives. And and again, they're all doing it based on these false beliefs we have, because we're not told to question. We're only told to obey. Um, there was a Facebook meme that went around a couple of years ago where a child had corrected the teacher something about kilometers and miles or whatever, and the child had corrected the teacher, and the teacher wrote a note to the parent, and the parent had taken a picture and put it on Facebook. But the teacher said, yeah, even though I was wrong, little Johnny, shouldn't have corrected me. He should have just accepted my teaching. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's exactly what it
Belligerence.
is. It's that ego, be it from a teacher, be it from a CPS person. It's, even though you might be right, because of my position, you need to just listen to what I'm saying anyway. And for the I think everybody on the panels had confrontations with cops, and we know this exactly to be true. Doesn't matter if we're right, even if they know we're right. It's always goes back to, I'm the person with the authority. You listen to me. They say it every time they say, "Here's the deal," or
That,
what's the other one they like to use besides "Here's the deal"?
that's never happened to me.
Okay, and that's fine. And that's just fine.
Maddie, here's the deal.
I have a small
I
problem
don't give a
that when
fuck what you
people
say.
become aggressive or confrontational with me, I start laughing, and it's very strange.
Listen up. Here's the deal.
Right. Right.
I'm
And
gonna
And
talk
and that's
over
fine, and
you.
that's fine, and that's fine. Oh, if that's fine, then why are we here?
right.
Yeah.
And you
They
can
make
see
believe
it.
like they understood.
Guys, if you watch closely at these people's faces at the moment that they're denied their authority, like
Blink, blink, blink.
right. God, which one
They're
was it?
confused.
Even my wife noticed it when I was at that woman's prison up there in Ocala, and that
Mhm.
inspector came over with his blue striped shirt, and he was like, "Well, we'll just have the sheriffs handle it." And I was like, "Oh, great, let's go ahead and do that." And he looked at me with the stupidest expression on his face for like 2 minutes, dude, and he didn't say nothing, and you can see
Just
it in his
called my
eyes,
bluff.
dude. Right? He's like, "Oh my God, someone has questioned my authority. Who thou are they?"
It's all fun and games until U.S. code comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it right? Is it right for a man without children to pay school taxes?
Well, that gets us into the betterment of the child on the community level type thing. If a child was getting a actual proper education, then I myself, I would not protest that, even if I didn't have children. However, being that I have children and I homeschool myself, and again, even if the children were getting proper education, I would still be okay with being taxed for proper education for the children. But that's not happening now. What's happening now is you're getting taxed a whole bunch. The school administrators are driving Porsches.
Yep.
The teachers are barely getting paid.
And the roofs are leaking.
Right.
There's no air conditioning.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they're teaching them crap. I mean, these kids can't even balance a checkbook when they get out of school, much less think for themselves. You know what I
Tell me
mean?
about it.
Well, I don't think that the teachers are getting paid a lot. Maybe the administrators and stuff.
Well, that's what I was saying. The teachers aren't getting paid nothing.
Yeah, they're not, and you know, they don't have the resources to obtain everything that they need, and especially look at how they treat inner city kids. These kids are barely literate when they get out of school. I mean, and their English is broken at best. And these are the neighborhoods that the police are patrolling, and it's systemic to what's going on in society. And
it's not just the geographic. It's like a class divide. And
yes,
it's not just racial, it's a class divide. You could have a kid who is in inner city and he makes it out. He gets out of the hood and he gets that college scholarship and he goes to Harvard, but his last name is Perez. So he's not going to get the jobs that Mr. Presley gets. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's just a carrot. That's like the carrot in front of the donkey. Okay, because listen, if nobody made it out of the hood ever, then we wouldn't be as productive and docile as we are to the government. So there has to be that carrot. There has to be that antidote where you can look at and say, hey, if he can make it, anybody could make it. But the numbers, they don't work out. The numbers will never work out, okay? Because even if everybody in the United States wanted to go to college, guess what? There's not enough college classrooms to go to, okay? But let's say everybody could go to college, okay? And you get out of college, you want to make 70, 80 grand a year. Guess what? There's not enough jobs paying 80 or 90 grand a year for everybody in America to go to school, pull themselves up by the bootstraps and do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, it's a carrot that'll be on that stick and you'll never be able to reach. You'll walk to the end of the earth and you'll never reach that carrot. It'll be just out of your reach.
It is a cruel jest to ask a man to pull himself from his bootstraps when he has no shoes.
Well,
right.
Yeah.
But again, that's the illusion that they give us. It's just like the illusion of voting is, if we just vote harder this time, we'll have more freedom. Or, if we just vote harder this time, things will be better. I can't tell you how long, I've been on the internet listening to both sides bicker. And one side, their guy will become president, and all of a sudden the government's not corrupt anymore, and everything's bright and rosy, and we're moving in the right direction. And then, the other guy gets in the office, and all of a sudden, the guys that thought the government were bright and rosy swear this guy's the Antichrist, and it's going to be the collapse of the world. And it goes back and forth. It doesn't matter who it is. When Bush was in office, he was the Antichrist. When Obama got in office, he was the Antichrist. And now Trump's the Antichrist. And it goes back and forth, and it just boggles my mind. How one day the government is corrupt, and you can't believe a word they say. But then come inauguration day, and holy shit! All of a sudden the government's right.
4 years later. It's all about the guy who spends 4 years in the White House, not the 40 in Congress, not all the actual deep state that actually exists, the people who run the alphabet soup agencies that live through each president. And on January 20th, every 4 years, they say, hey, man, here you go. This is how it goes, and you're going to fall in line or else,
the grass
yeah.
People think the grassy knoll, but nobody remembers that Reagan got shot.
Yes, he did.
And the Brady bill,
because he lived through that. And you know what? Not a lot of people know about the Reagan assassination attempt is that the gentleman that tried to shoot Reagan, his brother, the very next day, was having dinner with Neil Bush, who, as you know, at the time was George Bush's son, the vice president.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, how it played out is Neil Bush was having dinner with the guy whose brother almost made his dad the most powerful man in the world. That's a pretty big fucking coincidence.
Yeah, and that's why you don't hear about Neil. You hear about the stupid ones, Jeb and George.
Exactly. Yeah.
Neil he's the man behind the curtains out of those brothers. Jeb never held public office before he became governor. Like a lot of, politicians these days. There's
Foreign
that
politicians.
the guy they throw up there to be on stage. There's other people who are in the office all day. They don't have time to be on TV and doing the press conferences who are actually running the shit. Of course, we know all that, man.
Hey,
But with this family, it's very like that's what the entire family is about, is that whole controlling thing and running drugs with Noriega, the CIA, and shutting down all the factory jobs in Los Angeles, creating all that, the whole crack epidemic,
How about the fact that Marvin Bush ran the security company and all of the canine units that guarded the Twin Towers?
Operation Just Cause we felt like unloading the whole big load that we built up against the Russians the first time we used the Hummer. We were talking about that, right? Rogue Raytheon. Did you pay them a visit?
I did. I paid Raytheon a visit down there in India on Wednesday, I think.
Bro, they melted people in Panama City. They killed about 4,000 civilians. Not Raytheon alone, but we.
I was talking about how even with the pandemic going on and stuff lately, and just the way politics has always seemed to me is just a reason to point the finger at the other side. Somebody today, I was talking actually with my dad today, and he seems to blame Trump for a lot of stuff, and I'm like, you really think that you can blame one guy for it? I'm like, isn't that the whole reason that the system's so great, and it's supposed to work the way that it does, is because it's not really all up to one guy. It's supposed to be up to a number of people.
You've been talking to Wolfie.
No, I haven't been talking to anybody.
Good point, though. It's right on target.
Yeah, well, you would like talking about that with Wolfie because he's of the same mind, and we all are. I think, we all know that it's a whole. I've used this word a couple times today, but a cabal of people that are running not just this country but the world.
They've turned all the people that want to go back to work right now into the Republicans, and all the people that want to just be careful and stay home. And it's just funny how they've turned even this whole thing into a big political
show.
Yeah. Are we getting rated again? What's up, Joe Black? Lion One, the least respected specialist in the medical community. I was segueing into our next week's topic, which is GA. You want to talk about that? He's talking about this pseudoscience. But go ahead.
Oh yeah. Texas is the only state that I've found so far that has enacted a junk science law, which allows people who are convicted of crimes to challenge through a writ of habeas corpus to bring new science towards their case to prove, because they deal with stuff like blood spatter and bite marks and incentivize witnesses, prosecution leaving stuff out that would be somebody's alibi. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that people get convicted for, and they're actually innocent, But when you go into a place like that, everybody's always claims they're innocent, but they're actually people that are in there living in there for 20, 30 years that never committed the crime that they like. That's another reason why I think it's crazy that people give up the Fourth Amendment so fast and given their ID and stuff like that. Is that's why I was always reluctant, is I don't know what you're attaching my name to. You know, you might just say you want to identify me, but I don't know if you rolled up on me and I look like a match of description or something like that, and the next thing you know, I'm the guy that did something.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
If I may, the whole thing is rigged to begin with. It starts with intimidation right from the gate, and they know that even if they charge you with it and it doesn't apply, 95 to 98% of them are going to plea out, whether it's taking a deal for 30 years or it's taking community service. Either way, they're going to plea out and they're going to pay their fines. And even if they didn't do it, they're still pleading out, and it's rigged. Rogue,
well, no, these are like murder cases that we're talking about. The science of like forensic science of like, oh, the bite mark. This proves it, and that's it. You're going to jail for the rest of your life. When that guy could not have bitten somebody like that, that's not a bite mark.
Too, where you're talking about like detectives and the prosecution pretty much coercing witnesses to change their story or
here's where I'm going with that though. Okay, all that stuff costs money. Rogue, I'm sure you can attest to this more than a lot of people. It costs money to get an attorney. $3,000 to $5,000 pretty easily.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, the public defenders are gonna tell them even if you didn't commit the crime, for you to take 40 years instead of life or the death penalty is going to be better. And then the criminal will be like, well, then why don't you sign up for that time?
According to Criminal Justice 101 at St. John's University here in Palatka, Florida, they taught us that the public, I call them public pretenders, basically. The public defender is not there to plead your case or to help you plead your case or to prove you innocent or guilty. They're only there to oversee and make sure that your rights are observed and you get the due process under the 14th Amendment.
That's correct. Yeah,
I got some records back from my public records request at the public defender's office in Toatis.
Really? Already?
Yeah, they got back to me.
I got recognitions of my requests, but I didn't get any fulfillments of mine yet.
Yeah, you guys interested?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
is
right.
it the one number everybody's been looking for this whole time, which is how many cases were pled out
from my vote.
How many cases were pled out last year from January 1st, 2019 to present? So a year in. It's 6,738 in Lake County, 7,559 in Marion, Hernando 3,446, Citrus 3,425, Sumter 2,398. I asked them also how many cases switched attorneys mid-case, and they didn't answer that.
What was so hard about them even like coming up with that? We should have got many of those back, because there's been multiple times that we've asked different, and it sounds like they gave you multiple counties that they included, right?
Yeah, the public defender's office, like the state's attorneys, is for the whole district.
Oh, so yeah. Right. So it'll be.
It includes a couple of counties in that public defender's office. But see, here's the thing about the public records. What GA was saying about us asking for it. We're still at the mercy of these people because they realize there's no enforcement of that statute. I mean, we can make public requests till the cows come home, but if they say no, or they don't want to give it to us, like up in Panama City when I requested the bank account records, they haven't given them to me, and they know that I can't get them unless I sue them for them. So it's a risk versus reward type of thing. How much does this guy want the records? And is he going to pay the money out of pocket to sue in order to get them? And like I said, unless those records are going to, crack the case for me, I'm not going to pay to get them. It doesn't make any sense to get these records if I don't know specifically where the crime is occurring in them. So that's why we need help of the citizens and subscribers and people that are working in these offices, because I know you guys have heard me tell a couple of the public servants that I come in contact with, but us auditing isn't about one certain person. We're not there to audit one certain person. What we're there is to do is to check everybody, and that only benefits everybody in the system, not just we the people citizens, but the public servants as well. I always bring up the case of the fire chief that had worked for his city for 30 years, and he retired, and the city had mismanaged their budget somehow, and of course we all know how, but they mismanaged their budget and they ended up having to cut his pension off. Well, he couldn't afford heat in his apartment, and the guy ended up dying, freezing to death. And that's real, and not just one instance. That's happening in different ways all across the country. And once that level of debt is hit on some of these cities, they're just going to start reneging on their obligations, which are pensions, pretty much. And that goes for the police and the firemen and teachers and the city clerks and everybody. So I mean, this is what we talked about in the financial show a couple weeks back. This is a real deal here. You know what I mean? That this is not something that's hypothetical or conspiracy theorist. Anyone can look at their city and their county and can request the pension obligations that they have, and you could see that it's not sustainable at all in any way, shape, or form. And as we continue to get more and more in debt, the picture just looks worse. It doesn't look better. Okay, the $6 trillion they printed up for this COVID crisis, it's not making us in any better position financially. I know they're like, oh well, we'll print this money that way we won't be that hurt financially. Well, the printing of the money is what is hurting us financially to begin with.
If I may.
Yes.
San Joaquin last night. I think some of you guys were there. Wrights was definitely. I said hi to him. Said something very telling, or very, very prolific, I should say. That we need to accept even really low-level auditors. I've been trying to do that a lot, as much as I can, because they're just as important as bigger, like people with more subscribers and things like that. Because just the few hundred people that are doing this can't do it alone. And the more I talk to my own government representatives and things like that, the more I realize that we need to talk to them more. That's why I keep on screaming at people for hours per day that they need to contact their government representatives so that they can actually figure out who those people are. People are just voting for a face on a sign on someone's lawn. It's very strange.
Well, right, and they're voting mostly along party lines, and again, that ties us all back into our beliefs and how the government has split the country down the middle, and most countries down the middle, with choice regarding the political parties. And even the opposition that springs up a lot of the times, like the Green Party and Ross Perot and different stuff like that. That's what they call controlled opposition. It's the illusion of freedom. It really is the illusion of freedom, because listen, no matter who gets elected, our status in society is still subject. Now they call us citizen here. You know, that's the term they have for us because we're supposedly free men. But if you read, there's a James Kent book on American law. It's from 1826. There's a quote in it that basically he says, you know, even though they call us citizens here, we are still subject to the government the same as any other citizen in any other country. And he's exactly right. You know, the whole we govern ourselves thing makes people think that, and you know, the sovereign citizens say it all the time, not the police sovereign citizens, but the wannabe law gurus that you know plague Facebook with their half-written uh, you know case law, whatever. But they don't understand the we govern ourselves concept, and basically how it goes is this: we the people is everybody united. Okay, it's everybody united. That is the supreme uh, you know, sovereign, all of us united. Okay, so if we were all able to fit into, let's say, a sports stadium like, you know, Wrigley Field in Chicago, then we could be the sovereign. But we could never get everybody in America together in order to get a consensus. Okay, so we the people as the sovereign don't actually exist anymore. So you go down to the next level of authority, which is the people that we, the people, have put in charge, which is the government. Okay. And then under the government, you have the subjects, the citizens. Okay. And we know that we are subjects because the main word in government is govern. Okay. And in order to govern, you have to have people, you have to have subjects to govern. And these subjects have to be subject to whatever you say. Okay. Because otherwise you cannot govern. If the government was able to make laws that none of us had to obey, you wouldn't have government. You would have anarchy. Okay. So there's a famous court case from back then that said that, and the sovereigns use it all the time. And it says that, you know, we are free men and we have no one to govern but ourselves. Okay. And they take that to mean that we are the supreme sovereign in a society. But that is, you know, there can never be a society of all kings. Okay. Ask 5 women to live in a house, and you'll see that there cannot be 5 controllers of that area. Okay, and the same goes for men as well. I didn't mean to say women like it's, you know, something that doesn't happen with men, but there can never be a society of people who don't have to listen to anybody but themselves. Again, that wouldn't be a society. That would be anarchy. So in a society, we have to have that structure, or at least that's what we've been told. And that's the way it works now. So,
But
go ahead.
but that's why there's people like you and I and all of us here, activists, because I think George Washington said it best. Government is not reason, it is not eloquent. Like fire, it is force. It's a dangerous servant and a fearful master. Never should it be left to its irresponsible actions.
Right, and that's exactly what we've done. We've let it go. We've been
Yep.
apathetic.
Yep.
You know, we've gone out and voted every 4 years, and then come back and sat our ass on the couch and continued to watch Family Guy and drink Budweiser all fucking night, until we pass out, and then we wake up in the morning. You know, most Americans live a drudging, day to day worker ant life. You know, where they go to work, be it whatever job, be it McDonald's or be it an executive at, GlaxoSmithKline, uh, you know, but we all are working ants, and we go to work and we pay our bills, and we follow the script that's laid out for us, which get a family, get a white picket fence, raise your kids, send them to college. One of the things that's always struck me, that people say, is that you should go out and get a job. I hear a lot of trolls say it to me, even though I have a job. But the point I'm trying to make is you don't hear people say, go out and create a job. It's always go out and get a job. So, I mean, that's just showing you the psychology of society. It's not create something, it's go out and work for someone
Be a
else.
drone.
Right. Go out and find yourself a master that you can work for. It's not go out and be a master. It's go out and find a master.
And it's gotten so bad that you can see on YouTube, if you check it out, it's people are like, it's our natural instinct to break free of those chains that I think are being set not just by our government but by tech and the drug companies. Tech will program Google to send you stimuli that make you act a certain way, depending on the metadata that it's calculated. The artificial intelligence does this by showing you an ad and make you want to buy something. Oh, that looks like a cool portable fishing rod. I'm going to start fishing. Maybe I'll go out with Solo Yacker and exercise my Second Amendment right. You know what I mean? It's just like controlling, and when you see on YouTube people building tiny homes, homesteading, and showing how people do, they don't want that shit anymore. These are the free minds trying to break free of those chains,
Exactly. Yeah, that's why if you live in a city, you have to be hooked up to the city water. If they have city water available, or city power or whatever else like that, a lot of times they'll make you sign up for that. They won't allow you to install solar or run some kind of water catchment system or
what's up, Jeff?
Anything of that nature. They definitely don't want people to be self-sustainable. They want people to have to rely on other people, because when people don't,
they want to be able to switch you off when you step out of line. That's it.
Exactly. Or when you run out of money, like I said, they love for people to default on their taxes for their home, just like the banks do. Everybody says, oh, the banks don't want you to, to have your house go into foreclosure.
Yes, they do.
How much do we owe in taxes? Oh, we know, but we're not going to tell you. You have to figure it out. What if I get it wrong? You go to jail.
Right. Listen, there's a lot of tomfoolery going on. Just like I said with the financial show a couple weeks ago with the GDP and the inflation. There is so much that is going on that would just boggle many Americans' minds, and they wouldn't be able to face it. Stuff to do with banking, stuff to do with government. I mean, basically, most of the major stuff that we believe in our lives has been lies, and it's been lies to manipulate us, and to.
You know how much shit has been concocted in the last month and a half, 2 months. You know how many our city commissioner went from 168,000 a year to 208,000 a year. This is the city of Largo commissioner. That's half of what the president makes. What the fuck?
I'm gonna have to go here in a minute.
Yeah, me too.
I put my email
in
the private chat in StreamYards because I'm not a mod here. I am on Eyes, but not over here because I didn't. I was wondering where you went, Eyes. I couldn't figure it out.
We're here.
Yeah,
well, you fly off the handle as a
I
mod
remember you even talking to me when.
so.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I remember you even telling me that you were going to do this, and I can't remember. Listen, I forgot. There's some
Jeff is
things,
here.
sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Just there's some
story. That's the Canadian version of Monopoly.
There's some things going on YouTube and with certain people that are watching. That's all I really want to say. But yeah. Just there's certain things going on that are starting to alarm me. Just there's eyes coming from other venues on the internet and stuff like that. So that's my email. And if anybody checks out my streams and they want to come on there and talk about it, then I might be able to point you around. But like, there's this one guy, and he's not going to like I mention him, but his name's Shiva, and he's very critical, right? Before you came on last night, writes he was in there talking about certain things
on Jeff Stream.
Yeah, Shiva, the scam destroyer.
Yeah.
And
just I caught some of what he was talking about tonight, and I don't know. I'm trying to fight the good fight, but I'm starting to get a little bit worried that there's a lot of eyes.
Of course there is. There's the eyes of the government, then there's the eyes of the people brainwashed by the government.
Yeah.
So we're fighting a long battle, but listen, the ideal is not to change people's
live in fear.
Well, right, but we can't change what people believe. We can't change what the trolls believe. We can't change what the government believes. But what we can do is we can do what we do and do it correctly, right? And that's exactly what we're doing. We're planting the seed. Now, a lot of times I'll go and I'll argue with trolls. I even get on their Discord and I'll argue with them there. And it's not because I think I'm going to change the mind of the people that I'm arguing with, but for the people that aren't arguing with, that are just looking at the information and can actually think for themselves, they will be able to decipher what's really going on and who's actually, telling the truth and what information they should look for.
Right on.
And I think that's where change comes from. Change doesn't come from the confrontation. Like, I don't think in any way, shape, or form that if I have a confrontation with a cop, that it's going to change his mind on the First Amendment, on public property, anything like that. But what will change his mind is when the video is seen, his superiors have been called, and his superiors then go and tell him that. Okay, that's why sometimes they say, "Well, we're going to call the cops." I'll say, "Yeah, absolutely, call the cops," because they won't believe that you're allowed to film there until the cops show up and tell them you're allowed to film there. And even then,
the cops will come and educate
you. I've seen postmasters argue with the cops just the other day down here in Indy when me and Hoosier News Now and Chuck Bronson went to the post office. The cop came in there and told the lady, he's like, "Listen, it's a public building. They're allowed to be here. You're allowed to film." And she was literally arguing with the cop.
Man, I love seeing that when they pit against each other. That's great.
Yeah. And it's
I'm just kidding.
crazy.
I don't like seeing that,
but people's beliefs are so ingrained that they need somebody in authority to tell them, that what you're doing is right.
Absolutely.
Right. It's easier to fool someone than to convince them they've been fooled. And to add to that, I've done it in one of my videos. It's like I said it. I'm not just here to change minds. I'm here to let the like-minded people know they're not alone also. So aside from the people who are not arguing against that might learn something, I'm also showing the people who are like, "Oh, okay, there's somebody who agrees with you. That's what I've been saying this whole time."
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me on your show here. And you guys stay safe out there. I got your back. All you gotta do is ask.
You too. Thank you.
So thanks, guys.
Same here. You have a problem with your sheriff out there. We're gonna look at the Putnam County Sheriff's Office Facebook eyes.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, we got a Facebook problem there.
Uh-oh.
Wastebook.
We love the GIFs. We love the GIFs.
Oh, I got so much stuff. Wait till you see what they did on my discrimination case that I'm getting ready to write.
Okay.
He went on Facebook and said that I was a guy that dressed as a girl and basically made me look like a sexual predator, which is totally not what I am.
Wow.
And tried to get people roused up to want to come. There was even threats against me on the Facebook, and of course I went right at him and said, "Okay, where do you want to go? Where do you want to meet up?" Nobody wanted to meet. But yeah, there was threats and everything. So there's a whole bunch of stuff I'll show you guys. Anyway, thanks, guys.
Definitely. I'll get in touch with you, okay?
Yeah, sounds good. You can get my number from Rights.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye. All right.
Bye,
thanks. Bye. All right. We're almost 2 hours here at this point. So I imagine.
GA, do you want to touch again on next week's topic one more time?
Ooh.
You got to come up for air, like put the scuba tank down and then talk to us. Dude, you sound like Papa Geppetto right now inside.
I think he's hitting the whippets, the whip cream, air.
Oh, Mr. Roboto.
But what next week's topic is that GA we can't hear GA talk about right now is the junk science laws. Only place we found it, or GA found it. It's his topic. He did the research on it. The only place GA found it was in Texas so far, and I think that we can all agree that this is something that needs to be enacted in all 50 states.
Yeah, should we start assigning homework to the audience?
Yeah, we can
find us a local case that has to do with next week's topic.
Email it.
You can actually go on the Innocence Project or just Google the Innocence Project, and they have cases from but that's a whole nother organization that's helping people who are innocent and been locked up appeal their cases again. So, but that's one place to look, and then I'll do some more research before next week. But as far as where that actual law is a thing, is only in Texas. But to me, yeah, it's like if Marcy's law is if there's a version of it in every state, then why wouldn't there be a version of this in every state? But yeah, the Innocence Project, if you Google that, there's probably some cases, or you can type in your state too,
Jeff,
and there'll be some cases. I'm sure that they worked on.
All right. Is there anybody in the comments that has any questions or wants to?
I haven't seen a question or comment.
Questions, comments, agreements, or disagreements? All welcome. We just had a flyover from. Is it raining by you, man? Was that a car driving by in the wet road or something?
Oh, it's probably by me.
Yeah, that sounds like a jet flying by.
All right, that looks like it's about it. So we will catch you all next week. Same bang time, same bang channel.
Sounds like a good time to me, guys.
That I did to lose your subscribership.
Y'all have a good night.
All right, have a good night, everybody. Thanks for everybody joining us. Make sure to hit that bell. Make sure to hit that thumbs up. Make sure to share. Have a good one. Good night.
Later, y'all.